It's an absolute headache. There's a bit of an issue. This wood is very unstable. Hi guys, welcome back to Brew Remade, and today we are making an oak end grain chopping board. Now my friend has kindly donated to me this nice big block of oak, so we're going to go ahead and mill it up on my nice new table saw. We're going to cut it lengthways like this, cut it to the sides so we can make a bunch of nice blocks, glue those blocks together into a nice big slab, plane them down, do all that good stuff, cut them, make a load of nice oak end grain strips, then we can glue those together into a nice big board after flipping them over 90 degrees and gluing them together. Hopefully this is a more easier process than how I tried to do it last time, so we'll get straight into the project and see how it goes. I forgot to mention as well, this is a Christmas present for my father, because he saw my last video and he wanted one, so that's what we're doing this for, and hopefully I can get 2 chopping boards out of this so I can give one back to the friend that gave me that nice big block of oak. So now we'll get straight into the project. I don't know if using the full length of the blade right now up front is going to be too much. This is a very new table saw to me, so I don't know what the power in it's like, and yeah, hopefully it doesn't start smoking and doing all sorts. If it does, I'm just going to have to lower the blade and take, take more passes. Hopefully I can get it done in this one pass though. I'll just take it nice and slowly. Let's try keep all of our fingers, and let's go. I'm impressed. That went through just like fucking butter. I'm liking this new table saw. Just line this up as best as we can. And we'll take another... Oh, God's sake, I just moved it. And we'll take another pass. Alright. Apparently I'm not very good at lining this up. And it has some weird cracks going through it. Right, that didn't line up. This isn't going as smoothly as I wanted it to go. Right, so these are all the oak blocks I've managed to get out of it. I mean, I still have this big chunk here, but I figured this is probably all I need, and I don't want to go cutting up a bunch of waste. So I'll use this another day for another project. Now, I struggled a lot lining everything up, as you can see. They are nowhere near consistent, so already I'm wasting a hell of a lot of material, which is upsetting because obviously I can't go back. I've already done it now. So I'm going to have to try and clean all this up somehow. And I'm just going to sit here, have a little think about how I'm going to do this. My best bet is probably putting it through the surface planer, but that's going to take a lot of time. I'm going to sit here, have a little think about it, and then crack on with it. A lot of waste. Waste is done good. I have came up with a plan. What I have done is I've taken my really bad electric hand planer, and I've flattened these as best as I can on one side. And I'm going to run them through the surface planer. Do both sides just for good measure. I've done all that to the rest of these as well. But one thing I have found is that this wood is very unstable and stuff. You can see there's a lot of cracking. So this might be a bad thing. I might not have enough at the end of this all, good usable wood to make 2 chopping boards. But we'll get the surface planer out, we'll get them down to, flat on either side, and then we'll square up the edges, make our blocks like that, and see where we go from there. I put them all through the surface planer. They're all nice and flat now. Still haven't managed to get rid of some of these weird cracks that are going on. But because I'm doing end grain, I'm hoping these will get lost in the glue up. We're just going to go ahead and see anyway. Right, I've squared everything up in a table saw, and as you can see, everything is slightly different in size. Just because I wanted to utilize as much of this as possible. So the thinner stuff I'm going to put in its own section and, try and make the most of what I actually have here, because obviously the more material I take off, the less I have. I've got all this on the floor just from squaring all this up. Half a bin bag full of sawdust just from, getting the sides flat and everything. And I just need as much as possible because I want to make 2 boards out of this. What the plan's going to be now is we're going to cut those strips out. And what I'm going to do is measure how wide this is, and then just cut that like that, make the blocks that way, so everything is roughly all the same and stuff. And the surface finish is really good on this table saw. I'm really liking the table saw. I might put a link down in the description of what table saw I actually bought, because I think for a beginner, this table saw is really good. You have a sliding miter thing here, so you can put your crap, just dropped one. But you can do your cross cuts there. It's got a fence that runs the full length of the table and locks in from both sides, so it's nice and sturdy. And this actually extends out. I'm not going to do it now because I got everything clamped down and I can't be bothered putting it all back together. But it's a really good table saw. I might put it down in the description, I might not. So if you see it down there and you're interested, go ahead and click it. But this has been an absolute upgrade for me. I love this table saw now. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get these all milled up to look like that. And then we'll do our first glue up. And yeah, I'll come back to you when I've cut all of this up. Alright guys, we have finished cutting up all of our, well, these. And one thing I have noticed that I probably should have done, I probably should have kept them all the same size, because I'm just going to have to run them through the surface planer anyway, and it's going to look a bit mix match. But this is why we do these things, we learn. Now, a couple of the cracks did ruin some of my blocks. You know, after I cut them, they just gave way. So I think I'm going to try just glue these back together. And then at the very end, when I've done the boards, fill the cracks up with epoxy. This is everything we have. I think I definitely have enough here to make one chopping board, but I might be able to scrape another chopping board out of it. Not quite sure whether I'm going to go for another border of like that wood I used last time. I've got no clue what the species of wood is. Gonna start gluing these together like this, and then I'll be, after that's all glued up, I'll run them back through the table saw like this, and then flip those blocks over to have all the end grain pieces. So let's get on to the glue up. Well, first of all, we're going to arrange these to where the end grain looks like, you know, it's all in a nice pattern. And then we're going to glue it all together. So I'll come back to you once I've glued it all together. Right now, all I'm doing is I'm just checking the glue seams, making sure it's all nice and seamless. All done. Right, so it is a new day. We have our two glue ups out of the clamps. Everything is nice and dry now. So what we are going to do is we are going to put these through the surface planer like this until both sides are lovely and flat, and we get rid of, you know, this sort of like pyramid shape where it's all nice on the same level. So we can cut the strips along this way, flip them 90 degrees, and have our end grain. Got all the cutting done on the table saw. It was a bit annoying and a bit of a mess. Here's one of the boards. Came out good. I'm going to have to fill all these cracks up with epoxy here. That's no worries. But this one was every single bit split up. So I'm going to have to do some messing around and gluing up. And with the spare pieces I had left, I'm going to make some end grain coasters. By the way, if you haven't got one of these silicone spatulas, really recommend picking yourself up one for glue ups. The glue doesn't stick to the silicone, so when you last glue up, it's easy just to peel all the little bits off. Something good to do it all with, and you don't waste as much glue with brushes and stuff where you have to clean or throw out the brush. So recommend you picking one of these up. I got it from like Poundland for £1, so that's all good. But right now we're going to get some lovely tack bond. You've taken it out of the clamps. I know it still looks wet, but this is just because there's more volume of glue, but all the glue seams on the inside are dry. So what we are going to do now is attempt to square this up as best as we can. This is the board that's all cracked. The other board is just over here to my right, gluing up just there. What I have done is I've just put 2 extra oak strips on the bottom and top, just to make the board a little bit wider. So With this board, what I'm going to do is a full border like the last one, because there's more cracks in this one. So I figured if I use the darker wood like I did last time, it'll look nice with the epoxy all in the cracks. So we'll crack on. Right, now that we have these two sides parallel to each other, this is why I said I really like how this fence runs all the way across, because I can sort of use it like a jointer for the smaller pieces. So instead of messing around, I can just put it straight through, and now I have two flat reference surfaces. So now what we are going to do is use the cross sled, and we're going to go ahead and put a 90-degree on either side, so this ends up being nice and square, ready to glue the outside parts to it. So this side is out by a couple of millimeters. I must have had some shavings on here, or this must have moved. So let's just confirm which side is the square side and take another pass so we can get true squareness. Right, this is the square side, so we're going to take another pass on this side and make sure everything is fully pressed up against the sled. We'll just take another shallow pass. Let's check for square. Yep, yep, yep. And it is now all square on all sides. Right, so we got all these bits milled up. This is the exact same wood that I used last time. Decided to put some miters on it this time. So hopefully, every time I've done a miter glue up in the past, it's something's always gone wrong with it. I've had to like pack sawdust in and stuff. So let's hope this goes all right. First of all, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue these two parts in with these clamps. Then I'm gonna come in with some F clamps and glue these parts in here. So let's see how this goes. Right, we've got those parts on. Right, I'm just gonna go get my other clamps ready. Right, got my other clamps ready. Let's glue these. So while that other board is drying up, I'm going to go ahead and square this one up. I put some extra bits of oak on the sides here, and I think I'm going to do it on the top and bottom as well. So I'm just going to go ahead, get these two sides square. These two sides are already parallel. Let's give this a go. I'm just going to line it all up, and we'll go with it. And we'll go ahead and we'll check this for square. Got a bit of a burr there. Quickly knock that off with a bit of sandpaper. Yep. Yep. That's all square. So that's all nice and squared up now. So I'm going to have a little rummage around in the shop and see how I can get two long enough parts for the sides here, because everything I have is not really that long. Ooh, there's a bit of an issue. Yeah, right, so we're going to have to adjust for that when we're putting it through the surface planer. We're going to have to put it on a flat edge and wedge it. But we're not on that step yet, so I'll worry about that when it comes to it. But for now, I'm going to look for some bits of wood to put on either side. Right, I'm running out of room in my shed, so these are the only bits of oak I've managed to get. I've had to cut them in half and so I can glue them up like this. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad, but I don't have any longer bits of oak that I can use, so just gonna have to do this, and if it looks bad I can always cut it off. Just gonna have to work with this. Right, it is roughly about a week later, and I've had a little bit of an issue. This corner seems to just pop out. When I took it out of the clamps, they all lined up nice and seamlessly, but this one just decided to pop out. I don't know if the glue didn't adhere properly, or if temperatures and humidity and stuff made this all expand, so this gave way. Not a clue what happened, but I think the way I'm going to fix this is I'm going to take my saw, just cut down there on every single one, and then get some little oak strips, and then just glue them in there, and turn the failure into a feature. But the other board has came out perfectly fine, and what I've done is I've taken some hot glue. You can't see, but I've put wedges on either side here to stop any of the, rocking movement. All of it is nicely secure, it's all flat. So when I run this through the surface planer, I'm going to reference off this flat surface to get this side nice and flat. Then I'm going to take all the hot glue off, flip it over, run it back through, because this side will be already flat, so I'll be able to reference off this surface. And that'll be all ready. Right, so it's time to plane these boards down. I've already planed this one down, and I've decided with these slits that I've cut, it's too annoying trying to get those tiny little wedges in. I try putting in, they just crack and snap, and it's doing my head in. So I'm either going to fill them up with sawdust and wood glue or epoxy. I can't decide yet, but I'm going to put that in the back of my mind for now, and I'm going to carry on with this board. I'm planing this one down. I've got it on the sled. It's ready to go through, so let's get cracking. Now we have this all nicely planed. This is all flat now. I can pop this off of this flat board and then do the other side and get it all nice and flat. If I can find my chisel. Where is my chisel? There she is. Here we go. These are the little wood shims I was using. Let me start again. And there we go. Both sides are nice and flat. Right, so after doing a little bit of sanding, I got some sawdust to use, and I've mixed a paste of wood glue and sawdust together, and then I've kept some dry sawdust to go over the top, because whenever I've made a paste in the past, it seems to go darker than the actual wood it's from because of the glue. So what I like to do is after I've done my paste and I've shoved it in the holes, I go over it and rub a little bit of normal sawdust on it, and then it seems to match the colour. I did say I was going to use epoxy, but after thinking about it, because this is end grain and I'd be putting a black epoxy in there, oak is very porous. It's got very big pores, so I was worried of staining. So I don't want to stain the wood, and yeah, so I think I'm just going to use sawdust to try keep it look as natural as possible and to avoid staining. So let's see how this goes. Move on to this one now, and I'm going to be filling these with this mixture. And to be honest, I think it might look cool with the oak colour still coming out of here, but to be honest, I might end up just cutting all this off anyway and redoing it all, because looking at it, it doesn't look very good at all. But we'll carry on and we'll see how it looks like when we've got it all finished, and if we don't like it, we can always go back. Right, so these are all somewhat dry now, so I'm going to quickly go around and square up everything. Alright, so both of these boards, they're all squared up now, so it's just on to sanding. Right, so we are done sanding, And I sanded these all the way up to 400 grit. In between grits, I wetted the wood to get all the fuzzies out of it, which is, if you don't know, which is how you get a really, really smooth finish even after putting mineral oil and stuff on. So I'm going with mineral oil and beeswax because it's a food safe finish. Let's see how these boards turn out. We're done. What we're going to do now is we're just going to leave that mineral oil to soak in, and then after it's soaked in, we're going to buff off the excess and then rub some of our beeswax on top. So get back to you in a minute. That's all soaked in now, so we're just going to go and do a bit of beeswax. I've already buffed off all of the excess mineral oil that's on top. It's all nice and soaked in now. Just going to take beeswax and we're just going to smear it on there and then just buff it in. So I'm going to stop talking and just fast forward this video and get on with it. Right, so it's been about a week. These I've just been sitting around because I've had work and other stuff to go and do. But I've got some time off now, and I've decided I want to put some grooves in for the handles, but we have encountered a problem. Having them in the house in a different environment has affected these a bit differently. And maybe you guys saw this mistake before me, but the grain is running in different directions here. So we have the end grain, which is going to expand and contract this way, and then we have the borders, which go this way, obviously. And this side has given way because the inside of this has shrunk. I don't have a moisture meter, so I'm assuming there was moisture in that slab of wood that I cut up. So maybe I should have left them dry for a bit. But this has came away. All the other seams are all okay. They've all stayed together, but this one has came away to the point where you can see light through it. I mean, you can't really tell on camera at the minute, but I'm going to have to find a way to address that. So I might end up just cutting the whole border off and just having end grain. But we'll see how that all goes. Right, so I've put some masking tape on there. I've drawn some lines to be able to see where I can stop and start. I've used a block here to use as a fence that I've, measured the point of center from here, so I can. Well, you know what I mean. I've glued a block there, so I can ride this along there and do it somewhat accurately in the middle. So never done this before. I'm not very skillful with a router. This isn't a plunge router, so we'll see how this goes. Right, that bit isn't very sharp, and it seemed to burn its way through most of it. But yeah, I don't think it's too bad. Yeah, you can see a lot of the black dust coming out of there. Right, so I moved on to this board, and after cutting these strips off, I decided I quite like the look of the oak on the side like this. And to be honest, this isn't that small of a chopping board. It's not as big as I wanted it to be, but I think this will do for now. So I went ahead and I put these grooves in. All it needs now is a nice sand around everything. Since you've already seen all of me sanding and stuff, I'll come back to you once this is all finished again. Right, so we got everything finished up now. I got this chopping board. It is a little bit small for a chopping board, but I think it looks a lot nicer than this rather than having the borders that go around. So I'm going to keep it like this because I just think it looks a lot more nicer. So yeah, there's this one, and then we got the bigger one, which is like a decent chopping board size. So those are the chopping boards we made. Everything's all finished up now. And I also managed to make a couple of coasters as well to go along with them. So that's the end of the video. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know if you enjoy this style of video and editing that I've done this time. It's a lot different to my other videos. I'm trying to be a little bit more YouTubey and a little bit more engaging. So let me know what you think of the chopping boards and the style of video, and please like and subscribe. Well, I'm not close, but I would like to get to about 1,000 subscribers soon, so that would be great if you subscribe and join along the journey. Many more videos to come, and I'm going to try record them in this sort of style. So stick along for the journey. Hope to see you in another video. Goodbye. He's a tree surgeon, so we cut it down and stuff. Why am I too much information? You do it right this time. With a bunch of blokes. We end up with a bunch of blokes. Friend is kind. He's I'm glued to dickhead.